Hey, and welcome into another episode of Faithful Leaders. And I'm here today again with Thomas. Thomas, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. A lot of leaders we're talking to are feeling really overwhelmed, and their burdens are piling up because they don't have leaders underneath them to help. We've got a lack of leaders. And we talked about that in our first session on this, about how to select leaders for character and competence. And we looked at Exodus 18:21, where Moses was charged to pick leaders who fear God, who are trustworthy and hate a bribe. And then he appointed those leaders as chiefs over tens, fifties, hundreds, and thousands. And so in our example, in our story, Mary was looking for a leader who could run the process in the business, not just supervise it, because the system was falling down, breaking down, and wasn't getting the results needed anymore. So how do we know what level of leader we need and how much authority we can give them? That's what we'll take a look at.
That's great because, as we know, it is hard to find good leaders, not just people who have good character and competence. We also have to know what are they qualified for, right? Where do they belong? So how do we do that?
So let's take a look at the next verse, Exodus 18:22. And let them judge, govern, rule is what the text means. Judge the people at all times. So Moses appointed these leaders to be the rulers over people. This is different than what we think of leadership as someone who takes initiative and kind of collaborates with others. And while that's necessary, it's also necessary to discern between what's right and what's wrong in God's eyes and for the organization and to establish that. So Moses did that. He appointed them for ruling as chiefs. And what was important about how they ruled? Well, every great matter they needed to bring to him, and every small matter they shall decide themselves. And so that was a test for him as to what level could he appoint them at, and what was the result he's looking for. So it will be easier for you, Moses, and they, that is these rulers, will bear the burden with you. So Moses tested for their faithful activity of judging, bringing decisions to Moses or deciding themselves. And the result is that it would be easier for Moses and they would do what is right in God's eyes. So how did this translate for Mary when she's looking at this? How does it translate for us? Mary's looking for not a supervisor, but a manager. A supervisor, like a manager of 10 or leader of tens, is looking for quality. That is, the frontline work gets done in a repeatable way, step by step, that's going to be meeting the quality needed. Whereas the manager is going to establish the system and the process the supervisor uses to get the result within the resources and constraints available in that organization. So Mary's going to ask, tell me how you make decisions. So can you bring the right decisions to me? And can you decide the small matters? And then tell me what the process you used in those decisions and how you ran things. And what she's listening for is the steps that someone's going to take. Are they following a checklist? Are they running it and enforcing quality? That would be the supervisor. Or is the person describing the sequence of steps that need to happen? And there might be some conditional logic at each step that says, well, if you have this resource constraint, here's what you would do. If you have this resource, then you would do this. And she's listening for analysis. That person's going to be the manager, the person who's able to make the model that the supervisor uses. This was the kind of leader that Mary was looking for.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, it's great that the Bible just flat out tells you, hey, you need character and competence, but also you got to put them in the right spots and the right thing's got to happen. And so once that happens, what sort of victory, what sort of great thing comes out of that?
Well, we see from the text for Moses that he appointed these rulers to decide between right and wrong and to govern in this way. And Moses' burden was he was spending a lot less time doing this. Ruel had said, Moses, it's not good. You're sitting here all day ruling over the people. You got to delegate this stuff. And so Moses got time. It was profitable for him. There was benefit to the people that their needs were served because they had greater throughput of decisions. The small matters were able to be decided for the people of Israel, and they got benefit. And then God's purposes were accomplished because the whole system, all the leaders were making decisions and ruling in terms of what God said was right. Take that to Mary, and in her scenario, she actually got not a supervisor, but someone who could run the system and optimize that throughput of the system for better profit. It benefited the customers in bringing more value. It benefited the staff because they were less confused and they could use their God-given talents better and then accomplish the purpose of the organization much more quickly. It really accelerated the meaningful momentum in the organization when you got the right leader in place for Mary. And that'll be true for you as well.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. And in case you didn't know, there is a part 1 of this episode where Thomas describes character and competence and goes over the verses. And that's just part of the YouTube channel with the kind of ever growing content up there. So check out the links, subscribe, go check out last time's episode. And Thomas, thanks again for sharing this great information today.
Be faithful.